Welcome to Rich Conversations. This is going to be another wonderful conversation. We are joined all the way from Munich, Germany by Matze. How do you pronounce your last name? I've been getting
Sagerer.
it wrong.
Sagerer.
Zagerer.
Yes.
Yeah. See, that's not too hard. Zagerer.
Sagerer. Yeah. But I mean, there's still you can still hear your accent, but I guess that's how it is, right?
Do
Gotta
do
you gotta learn
Americans
you gotta learn German until the next recording, and then maybe it's better.
do you know besides English, do you know any other languages?
I'm learning French and Japanese to a certain extent, and also tried a little bit of Korean, but mainly now French and Japanese.
Why
But
French and
on
Japanese?
a very basic level, at the moment. French because I've been to France a lot with my family,
Okay.
and Japanese because I originally planned to do a semester abroad there, but then I thought maybe doing Korea, but now probably it will be I hope one time somewhere in Europe and then another time in the United States for my thesis.
Okay.
But I still want to visit Japan though, so I will continue to learn Japanese.
What draws you in about Japan?
It's just an interesting culture in this sense, first of all, that it's like completely different from um, the European cultures, because most of my life I've been traveling only inside of Europe. And even though you have some cultural diversity here, it's quite different if you visit another continent, except like the North America, because it's still similar. Except I would say Mexico. So United States and Canada are kind of close to the European culture because it's still Western culture. For
Hmm.
example, when I was in South Africa, also was quite different, and I guess it's the same for Asia. Unfortunately, I've never been to Asia, but really want to go there because just to experience another culture. And I know that in a lot of countries, and I think Japan is definitely one of them, if you don't speak the language and understand the people, you don't really experience the culture as a whole, and you're still kind
Hmm.
of an outsider if even though you live there for a month or two. So that's why I
Okay.
want to get more into it to experience the culture. It's not that I was like a anime fan or so for my whole life, like some
Yeah.
of my friends are, but still I think it's interesting. And I guess Chinese and India would, well, Hindi and Chinese to go to India and China would also be interesting. But one of my themes that I recently discovered for me is to focus on not too many stuff. And it's not. I'm still like learning to focus more because I'm already doing so many things at the moment, but I cannot stop them right now. So
Huh.
yeah. But when it comes to learning languages, just on the side, and it is not a lot. I do the Duolingo app, and that's what I've did for French for I think like 3 or 4 years now, and Japanese also for a while. But it's not how you really learn the language. You get the words, but you don't really learn the language this way. So my next step for French would be to watch Netflix in French. Already found a series that is in French, and that
Okay.
I will probably try to uh, watch in French because then you really get familiar with the sound of the language. Also, maybe visit French, maybe going abroad for studying to Paris, for example. That's where a friend of me was recently. And also, I have two French books that I also tried once to read a little bit. So I get some of it. Also, when I try to read French news or Japanese news, I get some of it, but I still need to learn more. But I don't have the time right now. It's just a side thing that I do a little bit.
Yeah. Huh. What's the Netflix show?
Lupin, it's called Lupin. It's about like a French con man, and he's stealing stuff and so. I watched it in German and then I tried it in French a little bit with subtitles. It was kind of okay. I understood like the gist of it, but I think I just have to watch it over and over again and just try to understand more and more every time.
I hear Tokyo is the closest thing to another planet.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Interesting would be the word to describe it. I would say like I'm curious about Tokyo for sure.
Have you been to Asia?
I've been to we did in like 10 days. We did Hong Kong, Hanoi, Halong Bay, Ho Chi Minh, Bangkok, and Phuket. We took like 9 flights in 10 days, and we were in these cities for like 2 days each. Yeah. Hong Kong,
That,
Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh, Bangkok.
that's a
Those
lot.
are the big ones.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was intense. It was our friend just finished um medical school and he had his residency coming up and he's someone who like plans out everything. So he had like this small window to work with and
I see.
and he
And you
based
want
it off of Anthony Bourdain's like food tours and we just like hit up all these spots. It was pretty exhausting. We felt like rock stars going like like 9 flights in 10 days. It was pretty crazy, but it was cool because each one was a different culture. I think my favorite was Ho Chi Minh. Um, Hong Kong, I would like to spend more time in.
me definitely as well.
Yeah.
A former fellow student of mine, he went to school there for 4 years, and he then told me Munich is not a real big city for him because he was used to Hong Kong, which
Mm.
is understandable because like
Hong Kong is,
it's
man,
an order
that
of
was
magnitude more more
it's I
population.
remember we were taking a taxi in from the Hong Kong airport and you're going along like you're like driving on cliffs next to the water and there's all these concrete buildings
Yeah,
just uh just erecting from the ground to the sky and it was like a concrete jungle. That's what I imagined, but it was an interesting terrain because it was kind of tropical, it was warm, but it was this major city right on the water as well and the mountains. It was really a unique place. Lots of people, yeah. Very big
yeah,
city.
definitely.
Uh yeah, that's interesting. Does it sound like I have an accent? An American accent? Is that a thing?
Yeah, yeah. You know, the thing is, I when it comes to accents, I definitely still have a German accent, but when it comes like English accents, I guess I'm more close. I'm closer to American English than to British English because I just consume more content in English when in American English than in British English, and I rather want to kind of pick up the British accent if I could. Maybe yeah,
That's a
maybe
good accent to pick up.
I'll stay to I'll stay in London for a while and then I can do it. And yeah, but I guess it's probably the same for most of the people I know in like the multicultural environments where I work in, so university or work or whatever, because most of the people, and they're not necessarily German, they're also from other
Mhm.
parts of the world, I guess just are confronted with more American English online, and then it just
Yeah.
spreads more. And I guess it's a cycle that just um, gets deeper and deeper, kind of. So
Yeah.
if more people that are not native English speakers pick up the American English accent, and then they speak to other people, then it gets reinforced again. But I recently was also in the United Kingdom, and I think it just sounds nicer. I would
It
prefer
sounds more
to have it.
sophisticated.
Yeah, yeah. But on the other hand, it's really interesting. For example, if you hear like British rap, then you still have the accent, but it's not like it's what they're saying or what the content of the rap songs is about is not like a posh thing that you
Uh-huh.
maybe connect with
Yeah.
when it comes to UK, and that's kind of an interesting combination to me. I mean, it's when I think of rap or gangster rap, I think more of American English, like East Coast,
Yeah.
West Coast, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But if you have it with a British accent, and I've heard it a bit, I think it's also it has an interesting sound to it because you have this British accent.
What kind of music do you listen to?
Depends on what I'm doing. I recently kind of went through my Spotify and looked at different playlists, and I mainly try to have a fitting playlist to what I'm doing. For example, I now made a playlist which I called Night Coding, which is exactly what it is for, what it sounds like for. And I want to have like a very relaxed, maybe some lo-fi hip hop or lo-fi house. I think no, it's not house. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you call this genres, but very relaxed lounge kind of music. But then also have a few classical music playlists, which is also nice because you have some kind of sound that you listen to, but it's very it's not distracting at all, and it's not messing with your concentration. And then I also have like some, what was it called? I think minimal techno or so. When I want to, that's usually what I hear in the afternoon or in the evening when I'm still doing some stuff and I need to get hyped up. But I also had it in the morning today. And then like for the shower or for the car, some different songs to sing along. So this is a lot of different genres, but like songs people know, maybe, for example, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, or also some Bob Marley and reggae. Then I have also my oldies playlist, which is largely based on my parents' vinyl records. So like Beatles or Pink Floyd, Queen, David Bowie, and so on. So a lot of different stuff, I would say. What I don't listen to that much is hip hop, maybe rap, mostly Eminem and Mac Miller. But it depends on what I'm doing. And then also maybe if I'm going out with friends or if I'm at a party, basic EDM or stuff like that. That's pretty mixed. But the most music that I listen to actually is for studying or for working, and then I don't want to get too distracted.
Yeah.
And I also have a deep relaxing playlist for my power naps. Which is like,
tell me about these power naps.
Yeah, I usually try to fit in one power nap a day, but recently didn't work out that much. But like a 20-minute power nap, either at home, at the university, there are some couches. At work, I haven't found a place yet, unfortunately. But then also at the student initiative where I am there, we have an office with a couch that I recently learned you can fold down and then it's a bed. So great for power naps. And like usually at 3 p.m. or so, just a 20-minute power nap. And I'm really surprised how well it refreshes your mind, because sometimes I take a nap for 20 minutes. I even wake up in between and I dreamt both times. So I had like a 10-minute nap and I was getting asleep so deep that I had a dream, and then I woke up after 10 minutes, had the same thing again, and then after 20 minutes was insanely refreshed. So it's awesome.
Power naps.
And I'm much more, so I lose maybe 20 minutes of time, but I'm much more productive than in the evening. So it's definitely worth it. But today, instead of a power nap, it was a coffee after lunch.
Yeah, what's your relationship with coffee like?
I mostly drink tea, but and see coffee rather as a tool. So usually I don't try to drink more than 2 coffees. And that's mainly when I haven't slept enough. And then 1 in the morning, but I wait usually like 90 minutes to 2 hours. I don't know the exact biology after it, but first your body has to wake up, kind of. There's I don't know if you're familiar, but there's this YouTuber and Professor Huberman. Have you heard about him?
Yeah. Andrew Huberman. Andrew
Exactly.
Huberman.
Exactly. He talks about this quite a bit. That I don't remember the chemistry behind it, but as far as I understood it, basically your body has to release all those signals, those what is the name again? at biomarkers, biomessengers, I think, something like this, to tell your body to wake up and get in a state where you're alert and all that stuff. And if you take caffeine right after you wake up, then it's kind of mimics that your body is already awake. And then your body thinks, oh, I'm already awake, so I don't have to release all those neurochemicals to tell my body that I'm awake.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's not very good. And then you get like a big, you can get a dip in the afternoon because you drink coffee so early and your body is not really awake, woken up already. But I recently heard that it's not necessarily necessary for all of the peoples. If you don't get like a caffeine crash, then you don't have to wait in the morning until you drink your coffee. But I mostly drink tea, so that's what I prefer most of the time.
Like green tea or black tea?
Neither.
Herbal
Mostly
tea?
yes, like ginger, peppermint. I don't know all the English names for all those stuff, but yeah.
Do people in Germany drink a lot of coffee?
Yeah, definitely. But black tea is also with caffeine, right? Or with tein,
Yeah.
which I think is also from some caffeine. So. But recently, a friend of mine brought me some tea from China, which is black tea, and that's really it's really awesome. This tea, need to drink it more. But again, I don't want to drink it too early or too late. So for coffee, I usually try to have my first coffee like 2 hours after I woke up, and then
2 hours.
another
Okay.
one at latest at 2 p.m. So if I wake up at 6, first coffee at 8, and then second coffee at 1 or so after lunch.
I did hear that. This is something I bring this up because I've been kind of experimenting or really observing um, my relationship with caffeine over the last few months. I did 30 days cold turkey, no caffeine, and been reintroducing it. And now I'm drinking it every day again with the intention of the new year um, doing cold turkey again. Because I was doing what I love most is I'll go through this morning routine. It's probably like maybe 45 minutes. And then I work on the most like creative task of the day. And it's lately I've been writing a novel. So I'm um, just writing part of it in the morning and just like sipping coffee. And it's the best. I experience so much joy doing it that I'm like, why should I not do this? And
Have you tried coffee without caffeine?
decaf?
Yeah, decaf, yeah.
Yeah, my body's a little different. Like like I feel sick. Like,
What?
yeah, I don't know. Because I tried swapping the afternoon coffees for decaf.
Afternoon coffees, so you have multiple in the afternoon as well.
No, no, like I would have one in the afternoon.
Okay.
But I keep track of how many. And so I have like a database of like habits in a way. And so my intention is for the new year, I'll go back down to 0. Start fresh again by doing cold turkey and then reset my system of the baseline and then just keep working in sprints rather than like trying to run like a marathon all the time. I like sprints, like short things. So when we're done with the book, then we'll take a break and then we'll come back again.
Yeah, it's also the focus thing, right?
Yeah.
Focusing on one thing. Yeah, I can relate to that. But by the way, as I said, I see coffee more like a tool. So like, don't remember, but there are a lot of times there are like 2 or 3 weeks where I don't drink a single coffee just because I don't drink it so much. So if my sleep is fine, I just don't drink coffee. Really. Also today I was just drank one coffee because after lunch a fellow student proposed it. Otherwise I wouldn't have bought a coffee.
Interesting.
It's also kind of a social thing. Also, at work, our coffee machine is broken, like for half a year now, and there's a coffee machine because we have all these like micro kitchens in the office.
Okay.
And at our office building or at our region of the building, we just have one, But in other buildings, they have like one every few meters, like every 20 or 30, 50 meters. And there's one in 2 buildings further that where people brought their own coffee machine, and the coffee is way better. So I always take a walk with some colleagues to walk to the nicer coffee machine. So it's also kind of a social thing. But last time we did it, we ended up buying mulled wine instead first.
Oh yeah,
So
nice.
we first had the wine and then the coffee, which was also nice because they're serving mulled wine at work right now.
Yeah, I was watching some YouTube videos on like the history of coffee, and this is when I was going cold turkey, and
Doesn't it make it harder if you like already cold turkey and then you watch a lot of stuff about coffee and you know you can't drink it?
no, because I had the discipline. I was like, I'm gonna do 30
Okay.
days no matter what. But the video tied the Enlightenment to coffee drinking.
I think I've heard that once again at some point.
Like Europeans discovering kind of the effects of coffee, the coffee bean. And then in England, there would be all these coffee houses. And then you had a whole bunch of stimulated people because it was something that could like change your body, but you wouldn't get sloppy like alcohol. Um, so then, so there was
I mean,
that.
sometimes I also get stressed out if I drink too much, especially if I'm low on sleep. So if I only slept like 3 hours or so, and then I drink like 3 cups of coffee, I get my body is really uh stressed and I can feel it. It's not a nice feeling.
3 hours. What's your average? I don't really have issues sleeping at all.
No, me neither,
How
but
many?
it's just when I'm awake and drink too much coffee and my body is already exhausted, then that combination.
Yeah, I feel it in my back for some reason. It like my spine decompresses or something. It's weird.
No, I don't have that. But I also feel like an old injury every once in a while.
Oh, what?
An injury.
Oh, interesting.
So I have to do like stretching and all that stuff all the time.
Huh. Yeah, the body's an interesting thing.
But I usually my sweet spot is 7 hours and 30 minutes. That's my goal for sleep. And like
Okay.
I want to get at least 6 and then at optimum 7 hours and a half. 7.5 hours.
Okay.
What about you?
I um I kind of plan for 8, but then I don't set alarm clocks. So there'll be usually a moment where my body wakes me up and I'm like, I know that's the time.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah. So
If you wake up naturally.
yeah. Um, so that's what I do.
Because
And
it's
it's
also then
usually
at
around,
the
it's between like 7 and 8 hours, I would say.
that's good.
Yeah.
And
But
also if you wake up naturally, you are always waking up at the, or I guess most of the time, at the end of a sleep cycle.
yeah,
So yeah,
it's been good. Um,
also try to
okay.
get back to that.
Okay, so you've been busy. You've been doing a lot of different things.
Still busy.
Still busy. Yeah, enlighten me on some of the things we're doing. Um, we're gonna hit some AI in medicine, some quantitative trading, and startups. Let's uh let's begin with London actually. You were in London recently.
Yes.
Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, it was how I got um to that company was kind of random, but I'm pretty thankful that it happened in the end because I've been interested in finance for a while already, like for what do I say, for a while, for like 10 years.
Mhm.
And it was on one of the Slacks that I'm a part of, which is from Unternehmertum, which is the startup incubator of our university. And people post stuff there all the time. And then they posted about an event of a company in Munich, which was a company based in London, but also their headquarters is in New York. They also have offices in Chicago and Amsterdam and Hong Kong and Singapore. And then I applied for the event, and then with some 2 fellow students and a colleague. Then we went there, which was already pretty interesting. It was about it was called Mystery Planet. It was kind of like a riddle, and with like 8 teams of. I probably shouldn't get too much into the details because you ask about London and not about the other event. Yeah, it was.
I want to know
was,
both. Yeah.
Okay. It was about different puzzles. So we had 8 groups of 10 people, and then each one was at a table where you had like different puzzles on the table that you had to solve, and there were like physical puzzles, logical puzzles, all that stuff. And then when you solve one, you get, but on each table were multiple puzzles. When you solve one puzzle, you get coins, and you had to try to get as many puzzles as you can for the table. And then you switch to the next table. And
So what are these puzzles? Like what kind of
we had three
questions and stuff?
Right. One, for example, what you have like a made up language, and then you had to match that to fruits, and then the fruits matched to a code which was on a pyramid. And then you had to, I think in the end, it was either the size or the number of fruits that you have. So you had like different plastic, I think was it fruits, and each of the fruits on a card matched to a made up symbol, like an alien language. And then if you sort the fruits by, I think, the size or by how many times each fruit appears, then you have a sequence for those symbols. And if you you had a pyramid that you can turn at each different heights, and then you can make, like, it was basically like a combination lock where you can put the sequence on one side of the pyramid, and then you could open up the pyramid at the top, and then you get the coins. So that was one example, but they were really different. So it was not always like this. I don't remember. It's been a while. This was already in spring, I think, but it was very, very interesting. And but probably the more interesting part was afterwards, because in between the 3 rounds of those tables, they also ask logic questions. For example, one of them was, I think, you know, the it was phrased like very poetically, a riddle, but it was basically it's if it's halfway, or if you halve the time from now to 12 o'clock, that's 2.5 hours. But it was phrased more difficult. And then what time is it now? And then you had to think like very quickly to figure out what time it would be now. And the group that got it first got a part of a rocket, because the theme, as I said, was Mystery Planet. They said, yeah, we're a mysterious planet, and they had all the different tables themed like a different region of the planet, and you had to figure it out. And yeah, then as I said, between the rounds, they got this rocket part. So in the end, 3 of the 8 teams got a rocket part. And then in the end, each team had their coins. And then you got resources, I think 500. And then you had 2 goals. Either you get you have a rocket part, or you get a rocket part, and you get enough fuel to charge the rocket and leave the planet, or you get as much resources as you can get by trading your coins. And the idea is you could do also different trades with the bank, and with the bank to get fuel. So the idea is all the but you can follow different strategies to trade your coins to get fuel, and then you can trade the fuel with the groups that had the rocket parts to get their resources.
Okay.
But you could also trade, because the coins also had different colors, and the deals that you can make with the bank had sometimes different necessities for the colors. So you can also trade with the different groups, just the colors. And we had 20 minutes, and we were all running around like on a trading desk and calling like, "Hey, can you give me 20 blue for 1 yellow, or 50 resources for that price? It was really interesting. We missed it by a bit so we had second place for having the most resources. So 2nd out of 5, which I think was not too bad. But it was really funny.
So is this event like a networking event? Is it like just like a fun
It was
event?
A fun event. We also had like free food before, and there was a trader from the company, and we got to talk to them, and there were some recruiters, and we could talk with them, and they also met just like a nice segue to the next part. They also had talked about the QTC in London, which I ended up applying for and ended up getting the place. So the QTC then was the quantitative trading camp in London for 3 days. By the way, at Jane Street. So that was the company. I don't know if you heard
What is
about
it?
Jane Street. Yeah.
I don't think so.
If you can.
So it's. I don't know if I can see that.
It's pretty small.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
So it's. Oh, Jane Street. Okay.
It's a street in Manhattan, as I've learned, but the headquarters of the company is not in that street in Manhattan. It is in Manhattan, but it's not in Jane Street. But I guess that's where the name is coming from, but I'm not sure.
So it's essentially
like Wall Street, Jane Street.
Bring smart people into one space through this company, and then see if people want to actively work more for the company or learn more, right?
Yeah, I would say so. There were multiple ones. There's also this Estimathon, which is a similar one, which was also one of the games we played in London then. But yeah, the bigger part is there's also another program. I forgot what it's called. It's like first year program, which is for first year bachelor students, which I'm not anymore. But a friend of my brother wanted to do that, and another fellow student from the student initiative did that, I think.
Okay.
But I would say the event in London was more like getting to know the company, because it was also at their offices. In Munich, it was at a hotel, but in London, it was at their offices for 3 days, and then we really got to know the company more. And it was specifically targeted to students from Germany and Switzerland. So most people, I think, came actually from Munich, also from my university. But then there was also a lot of students from Zurich and from Bonn, and some from Berlin, some from Cologne. Yeah.
What was your biggest takeaway from the event?
In London or in Munich?
London.
That it's a really interesting place to work at. And I also have now an interview with them soon. And the thing is, when I was switching from my bachelor's in physics to my master's now, which is more about robotics and AI, so kind of mostly computer science, but also a little bit of engineering, electrical engineering technique, depends on what kind of courses I take. I thought that I would end up like becoming a programmer and going in that direction. That's also what I work at now, but also not kind of in deployment, like where you actually build products that end up in an application, because I'm in an R&D department. But the thing is, I've programmed first time like, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago. But I've never seen myself like a full-on programmer. And that's also not what I did in my bachelor's. I mean, we had a little bit about it, but not a lot. And at the company now in London, I've gotten to learn about what a quantitative trader does, which is kind of a different kind of work, which probably suits me better. And they also said that they have like 3 roles that would be interesting for me, which is a trader, a researcher, or a developer. The developer is the guy that implements stuff. The researcher is the guy that comes up with, or girl comes up with the models, and the trader is looking at the models and trying to come up with new ideas how to improve them, but also could be on the system and the implementation side. So it's like they overlap what they're doing. But the traders, and we also did like mock trading there, you look at data, you get your data sets, and then you do a little bit of programming, data analysis, then you come up with ideas, and then you start trading on that ideas. Some of them also went further and actually build a machine learning model and all that stuff. We didn't, because we didn't have the time, but it ended up, our strategy ended up working very well. And I think that's kind of a good sweet spot for me, because you do programming, you do get insights, but you're not the one that really tries to get the most out of the performance and goes to the low level implementation. And because if you're a full-on programmer, as at least that's what I feel like it, I don't have had that much experience yet, but if you go into like architecture of those bigger systems, you have to think a lot about the efficiency or how all the things work together. And I rather want to think about the thing that the data is actually about, which is in that case the financial markets, and want to think about the models and the math that I use to get insights from the markets, more like a data scientist and not like a programmer. And I think that's why, combined with my interest in finance and machine learning, because we also had a talk about machine learning there, I think that would be a job that's very suitable for me. So guess I will go in that direction more if it's possible. We also at the student initiative where I'm now, we also have a task force now about quant trading, where you also want to participate in competitions and also do some interview preparation together. So that's kind of my takeaway. Sorry if the answer was a little bit long, but it was just
No,
that's what I realized, that it's something that would be quite fitting to me, I think, from what I want to do, because I want to try out different stuff. And from what I've seen so far, I think that's what's the most fun to me. I mean, other projects that I'm working on right now are also interesting, but I'm not sure if that would be the most interesting to me. And I guess you got to do what you love, and then you will do a good job, right? And then it doesn't feel like work.
it feels like
So,
there's a
like you said, with sipping your coffee and writing a novel, it probably doesn't feel like work.
joy.
Yeah,
It seems like you have a lot of different avenues you could take.
I guess so. Yeah.
So
But
how do you go back to what you said earlier about like focusing on?
yeah, that's the problem. That's something I need to
I
work
mean,
on.
I've experienced that problem. I'm trying to hunker down a little bit more too. But that's probably, I mean, where we're very similar is we're curious about many things. And so we like exploring all these things. And so there are many possibilities.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it's the focus
Yeah, for
on
now, I
one or
just
two
try
things.
to not take on new projects, but I cannot cancel the project I'm already doing.
Uh, okay, so what project energizes you most right now?
That's difficult. Say all of them are interesting, but in general, I mean, it depends on how do you find a project, how big of a task do you find a project? Because at university I do different things, at work I do different things, and then at the student initiative I do different things. So would you say one of those? So would you say university is one project, or would you say that the project in your university are one project?
Probably the project in the university, I would say.
Okay. Hmm. I guess what I'm excited the most is one of the task forces I joined at the student initiative, but it's not very clear what we will do there. I mean, it's not that clear to me right now, but I will probably know more about it on Thursday.
Okay.
And but it's about external affairs, so how to represent the student initiative to the outside. And yes, that will be interesting because you can get contact to different companies, go to different conferences, travel a lot, and that's how it will work out. And also, probably the student initiative will expand to a certain degree, but I also don't know a lot about it. We'll learn more about it tomorrow. But that's probably the thing I'm most excited about right now.
Okay.
But as I said, all of the projects are fun.
Yeah. What's
Just,
the project
there's too
dealing
much.
with? What's the project dealing with AI and medicine?
Actually, I have 3 on that note right
Oh,
now.
interesting.
Kind of. The one I would say is more in healthcare, and the other 2 more in medicine. Yes. So one is the practical course at the university. So, or rather at the clinic, at the clinic in Munich, and it's about AI medicine. So that's also what the chair is called. And we all had different projects. So we have multiple groups that have their own project, and we are a group of 3. I think everyone is a group of 3. And our concept is cascade learning. So, or the practical course, I think it's called Applied Deep Learning in Medicine. So not just AI, but deep learning, which means neural networks, almost specifically deep neural networks. And our idea, as I said, is cascade learning, where you try to optimize your approach in certain aspects. And we are not as far where we want to kind of where we already know which metrics we use exactly. But the idea in general is actually we had a presentation about this recently. I can also show you a presentation about it if you want. But the idea in general is that you could have one generalized model, so machine learning model, which takes input and then produces an output. So for our case, for example, you can do it in different domains, but what we are looking at right now is X-rays of the chest. And you want to predict or you want to diagnose which kind of diseases the patient has from looking at the X-rays. So you have a machine learning model, a deep learning model, which takes in as an input their X-ray images and produces as an output the diagnosis of, or rather, you have different classes of diseases, and you say if the patient has that disease or not. And that's one approach that you can take. Then you have one generalized model, and the idea now would be that you have a cascade of models, which means you first take one model to predict something about the patient, that he belongs to a certain group, which could be, for example, male or female, or white or black, which is interesting for skin data sets, what we wanted to look at first, because certain conditions in the skin, it's harder or easier to diagnose with white or with black people. But that's not really useful for X-rays, so we don't do that. We first wanted to do skin, as I said. And what we're actually doing now is rather not a group, but kind of a, it's more what you can think of like a characteristic of the sample, like the input sample that you have. And what we are looking now is PA versus AP, which I think is anterior posterior or posterior anterior, which basically means if you take the X-ray from the front or from the back. And certain diseases, just because you can see it better or worse, you can diagnose much better, or you cannot even diagnose if you have one or the other, because you just cannot see the organs, which is, for example, the heart or the liver or whatever, depending on if you take the X-ray from the back or if you take it from the front. And yeah, that's what you want to do. You want to have one model that predicts if the patient, or if the image is taken from the back or from the front. And then depending on it, you put it to a different model. So you have then one model for pictures taken from the front and one model for taking pictures from the back. And then you just want to use that model to predict, to diagnose, or to predict the diagnosis. And that's the idea is that you basically, the second model is a personalized model, or like it is specialized to one of the two kinds of images that you can take, and that's why it doesn't have to learn so much more features. Basically, if you can think about it as, to go back to the skin example, if you oh wait, I have a better example. We had I think it was X-rays from the side from a woman, and one was when the woman was pregnant, and the other one was where she was not pregnant. And when she is pregnant, you can see on the X-ray the milk that is produced, which makes it which results in a different color in the X-ray image. And then if you have cancer in the breast, you can have basically white dots on white background, which is harder to see. And in the non-pregnant woman, you have white dots on black background, which is easier to see. So the idea is basically you first have one machine learning model that tells you, okay, this woman is pregnant or this woman is not pregnant. And then you have one model for the pregnant and one model for the not pregnant woman. And the one model can learn, okay, I need to look at white on black background, and the other one has to learn, I need to look at for white on white backgrounds. And the idea is that is easier than if you would say, okay, just look for white, and you don't know if it's on black background or if it's on white background. That's what you would do in a generalized model. And there are more technical advantages that we try to seek, which is that you can do easier fine-tuning, or that you have less parameters in the model, that you can have to use less compute during training and during inference, that you can use smaller models and so on. But the first step is to get one working version of that approach and then compare it to the baseline generalized model, and then see what kind of results we have, and then iterate on that. I hope it was understandable.
How far away are we from you stand somewhere and you're in, say, a tube, and it scans your entire body, like at the airports I've gone to through security, you stand like this and then a thing goes around. How far away are we from something like that scanning our body and then data coming out the other end of diagnosing like everything that's going on in your body and how to then treat it specifically to that individual?
That's a tough question to answer. I mean, it would
Because
be
it seems
awesome.
like what you're saying is a very small step towards that.
You know, I can tell you who's working on a bigger step probably on that note.
Okay.
Another fellow student that I recently gotten to know, he's looking for he's actually in the United States right now for because he wants to do his thesis there. And what they are doing is really interesting. And that basically, when it works, as far as if I understood it correctly, is that you basically could do a CT, which is like you can also do it right now, right? Which is a three-dimensional X-ray. But the problem what you do right now is, if you take an X-ray, the only thing that you get is a shadow, and then you know, okay, here is the material is denser or less dense. And then you can say, okay, that's denser, there's probably bone, that's less dense, that's just tissue, and so on. But what they, technically speaking, you get a integral over the energy from the X-ray that beam that went through the material. And what they are working on is that you not get an X-ray, but you get a spectrum. So you can see which types of energies was observed through the material. So and the interesting part about it is that's also what they're using for getting to know the atmospheres of other planets. If a light beam, and X-rays are just electromagnetic waves, so light in a different, it's not technically light, it's an electromagnetic wave in a different wavelength than light. If light goes through the atmosphere of a planet like hundreds of light years away, then depending on which material is in that atmosphere, different types of the light get absorbed. And then from the light that reaches us, you can tell what materials are there in this atmosphere, even if it's very far away. And what they are trying to do is do the same thing for X-ray. And that would allow you to do a 3D map of a human, but not just say how much of the radiation was absorbed, but actually say what material is it. So basically you get a 3-dimensional map of the whole body, and you can tell exactly at which point, at every point, what is there. You don't know, you don't just see a shadow, but you could say, okay, that's the kidney, that's a blood vessels, and hey, that's a nail that someone swallowed or whatever. So
Yeah.
that's getting kind of close to, or it's an interesting step towards what you were asking for, right? Because then if you really have like a 3-dimensional map of the whole body, and you know exactly at which point what is, then you can take that again as an input for a machine learning model to predict which kind of condition the patient has. And you have like a very detailed picture of it. I don't know how far they are with that. I guess it's technically pretty hard, especially to get it at a higher resolution. That's also what I heard from another professor. They wanted to do MRI, but at a very high resolution, because I don't know, did you ever do an MRI scan? Or have you
I
ever
have,
done
yeah.
an MRI scan? Have you
Mhm.
seen the pictures? They're very crappy, right?
Yeah.
It's like 100 or 200 pixels. And that's limited by the resolution of the magnetic field that you can measure. And what they're doing nowadays is they really have very small coils, and they use those coils to measure the magnetic field, but it's hard to manufacture so small coils, sorry. And what they were doing is like using quantum sensors to measure the magnetic fields, which would increase the resolution dramatically. Like I'm talking 4K MRI scans, which would also be 3-dimensional. So I guess that's the first step in like 3D medical imagery, and there's a lot of stuff happening. So other groups, my place, are also doing stuff like that. And also at the other project, we're doing microscopy, which reminds me of my bachelor thesis, where they also did like 3D microscopy. So for elementary research, not on patients, but like in the lab. So there are a lot of different areas where you can increase the sensory tools that you have, which I guess is necessary to build that solution that you ask for, and then also interpret the data better with machine learning. And there are also, I guess, competition on that side. Basically, by the way, that's a very interesting thing you may want to look at. It's called Kaggle, and there are these. I've done a bit on it, but never started to what other competition. But it's very interesting because you have different competitions. Just looking at it, one of them is also from the company where I was in London. But here, for example, from Google. Oh damn, that's insane. But they're also like from the NFL, for example, or from this one was from Google's Spaceship, I don't know. And often they have prizes for the competition. So for example, here NFL Big Data Bowl, I guess it's something to use a lot of NFL data to predict something. 2 months to go. I think always teams of 5, and prize is $100,000. So that's also where we want to participate for finance data. But that's what I just said. It's insane. AI Mathematical Olympiad. Price is $2.17 million. We should
So
look
what is
into
this?
that.
So the
It's like,
NFL has a competition of different things?
it's a website, and there are a lot of different companies and I think research. Well, there's also one from Jane Street again. Different different competitions. For example, the one from Jane Street is you will build a model using real-world data derived from production systems, which offer you a glimpse into the daily challenges of successful trading. This challenge highlights the difficulties in modeling financial markets, including fat-tailed distribution, non-stationary time series, and sudden shifts in market behavior. And you have 1,773 participants, 1,500 teams, over 15,000 submissions, 2 months to go, and the price is, I think, 120,000 euros. Oh, that's a total. First place 50,000, second place 25, third place 10,000, fourth to 10th place 5,000. And yeah, I guess there's a longer description. Just have to predict something specific, and then they have a scoring evaluation function, and then you can win a prize, like money. And for the NFL offense or defense does after snap. I don't know a lot about football, so maybe I'm not qualified to talk about NFL challenge.
But is that a common thing where an organization or a company will kind of put out a competition, have a prize for someone to, or a number of people to submit ideas of plans to resolve a specific issue?
Yeah, as I said, that's a Kaggle website. That's where a lot of the competition's happening. It's a very, very famous in the data science in the AI community, because that's where you can really practice your skills on real world data. And if you are successful with that, I guess it's also very good for your applications to companies, because they know you actually know your stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I also talked with fellow students about it. I guess it's also good for the companies, because depending on what the issue is, if Google like pays $100,000 to resolve a specific issue, it might be way cheaper than building a team of 10 or engineers to work on it for a few months. And yeah, so it's interesting because it's beneficial to both sides. You get experience, you get contact to the companies potentially, but I think the experience is the most important. That you also can look at different ways how to look at the data, because I think you can also get look at the solutions of others in the end. And the best part is it's close to the real world. So I guess that's very important.
Where do you think in the last 2 years has your thoughts on AI changed in any way?
Yes.
Or yeah, elaborate on that.
Okay. First of all, like getting more into the programming world, I understand more and more that, or rather the corporate world as a whole also, I understand more and more that you don't need to build everything from scratch. So if you have a company, for example, where I work, we build semiconductors, and I'm in the R&D department for software for those semiconductors, for radar specifically, and we then sell our radar chip with the software that already has some type of application to it. For example, like gesture control, what was actually from the Google Pixel phone, that was from our company, and then Google can just buy the chip, put it in the phone, and then they have gesture control on their phone. And when I was younger, I thought like, if Google built the phone, then like everything on that phone is from Google. Or rather, Google, I wouldn't have thought about it from Google, but like from Samsung, for example.
Okay.
Well, which I guess for Samsung is fair because they do a lot of stuff. But for example, for the iPhone, the screens, I think they were, I'm not sure if they are still, were all from Samsung. So with every iPhone sold, Samsung made a profit as well. And that's what I see, like this woven economy as a whole, that like most of the products would not be possible to build from one company alone, but you buy different types that like different products already from other companies that are just B2B businesses, and then you use those to build your own product. And that's the same for AI as well. For example, if I try to do a certain thing in programming in general, but also in AI, I usually don't build my own thing from scratch, but rather use something from someone else first. A lot of the times open source models, and then I try to use that and see how good the results are, and depending if they are good or not, try to optimize it, or try to come up with something else, or try to build something myself. And also now seeing more, getting more into the entrepreneurship bubble kind of, and seeing where real startups are happening. A lot of the times they focus on one specific problem, and then they try to find the tools that are already there to use that to build their solution. And a lot of times that's working with already trained models, and then maybe even fine-tuning them, or just building an application around that model or an API. And when I was like 2 years ago, I thought more critical about it, and I think critical about it still to a certain extent, because as you might have noticed, there are a lot of with these LLM hypes, like which started with ChatGPT, a lot of startups sprung up that have some kind of service that involves language. For example, a PDF reader where you can like talk to in PDF was a startup, was a service, was a website long before OpenAI made it possible for users to upload PDFs themselves. So there were a lot of, but in the background, the company was just scanning the PDF, converting it to text, and then sending that text to OpenAI using the GPT API from OpenAI, get the feedback back from OpenAI, and then giving it to the user. So it was a very simple thing to do. I also played around with the OpenAI API a bit, so you can really do like 10 lines of code, and then maybe adding 50 lines of code or 100. And then you have a user face where you basically build your own ChatGPT, where you have a window where you can talk to ChatGPT. But what I do is just I send the text to OpenAI, get it back, and then spit the answer out. So it's very simple to build an OpenAI clone, ChatGPT clone. But in the background, you just use the same service from OpenAI and you pay for it.
Yeah.
And then you charge the user a little bit more than what you pay for it. And I think a lot of there's also this joke, a lot of the startups, most of the startups are just an OpenAI wrapper. So like a company that is built around it. And I guess that's fair. A lot of them are.
Yeah.
And I was very critical about it, but nowadays I think it's fair to a certain extent, but only if you add significant value to it. So if I would now build a OpenAI a ChatGPT clone, which like building the GUI, like the graphical user interface to type in text and get the text output, that is kind of easy, and I probably would be capable for it. What is hard for me, and what I definitely cannot do right now, is making it distributed so that it can deal with a lot of users, like with millions and millions of users. That's what I am not capable of doing right now, and probably won't be for a long time. But then I won't supply any additional value. But I could just say, okay, the premium subscription for OpenAI is $20, and I offer it at $10, but it's limited for a certain amount so that I still make profit. Because when you call the model from OpenAI, you pay per text, per token that you send to them. So just say, okay, you can get the premium models, but not unlimited, but it's still cheaper than ChatGPT. For me, that would be a scam if you would do that, because you don't add value. You just take the model from them and offer a cheaper price, right? But make a limit. So that's not value added. But a lot of the companies are actually adding values because they build more around it, where you just have the understanding of text as some feature that is needed for the application that the user actually pays for. So I think it's also getting better in that sense. The other thing that I changed my opinion about was that I don't think that it's so bad to use those language tools a lot. So I came mostly from computer vision, so like understanding images and video from with AI. But with this hype of natural language processing, is it called, NLP, all these languages, I also looked into it, and I use it quite a bit now in my day-to-day life. Also, what I recently tried is Copilot, GitHub Copilot, which is really awesome. It's basically ChatGPT, but optimized for programming. And then you can get a lot of stuff for it. And it's really, really interesting, because it sees all of the code that you're currently working on, And then if you start working and it understands what you want to write, it already writes it for you, but in grayed out. And then you just have to tag, and then you can look at it in like a second and think, yeah, that's what I want. Tap shift, and it produces like 4 lines of code. And if you do that a lot, then you can get like 100 lines of code in 20 minutes written, which usually takes longer because you have to think about it, right?
Yeah.
And then you can also have a chat where you can say, explain this to me, or what's the error message here? And that's things that you have to deal quite a bit when you're programming. And it really boosts your productivity. But one thing that I still hold on to, and fairly so, I think, is that I don't trust the output at all, because there's just so much false things that come out of these models, because it's just, I mean, it's not trained to predict correct, truthful text. That's the point. It's just trained to produce text that seems real, kind of.
Yeah.
And that's why I use it mostly. And I guess that would be a great use case for you as well, because you're creative, for brainstorming and all that stuff. Because there it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. You just want to get ideas, right? For example, if I have like a project, I think, okay, I work a lot with like bullet points, and I say, I have these bullet points. Please give me 10 different ideas of what direction I can take. And then I basically, do you know this books where I can decide which path you go?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically
Choose
what
your
I'm
own
doing.
adventure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm doing with ChatGPT, for example, other language models like Gemini or Claude. I say, give me 10 ideas of what I can do in my situation right now. And then there are 10 ideas, 5 of them are probably not useful at all. Say, okay, give me 3 different ideas on that, like a numbered list. Give me 3 new ideas of how I can continue with number 1, 5, and 7. And then it goes on, and that's how basically I construct. Like I'm choosing, but I get the ideas, like the different examples from the language model all the time. So that's a very interesting way to use it, I think. Yeah, that's I was very, because I know how wrong they can be, I hesitated to use those tools a lot. But now I'm embracing more of them, how to use them for productivity. But as I said, I don't trust any of it, and I always do my own research if there comes anything out of it that's important. Which is like when I do research on, for example, the university project or project at work, because most of the time it's actually especially when it's like a niche technical thing where the model didn't have a lot of training data, it just hasn't seen a lot about it. Sometimes it doesn't even know anything about it because it's just too new, and then you cannot trust it at all. So yeah, that's also when I talk to other fellow students with like very niche and specific technical stuff. It gets it wrong a lot of times. So, but for a general idea, it's useful. And the coding thing is also quite useful. But yeah, you have to really check it. So that's the thing people really should get right. Yeah, there was this saying, you probably won't get replaced by an AI, but you will be replaced. Your job will not be replaced by an AI, but your job might be replaced by a person using AI. So using it as a tool and not getting replaced by the AI thing as a whole. And I think that's very true, because it just can boost your productivity insanely if you use it correctly. And I think that's very important. So like, as it says with Microsoft products, Copilot. You're still in the driver's seat. It's just a Copilot. It just is a tool that you use. You shouldn't like tell it, build a whole company, and then it goes on and writes some code, and it probably won't work in the end at all. I mean, there's also something in that direction, but yeah, I think we're just not there yet.
Yeah. There's this big hype about AI not long ago, and it seems like it's simmered a little bit.
By the way, I need to close my window real quick, okay?
Oh yeah. So you had mentioned R&D, research and development with semiconductors.
Yes.
What how much more advancement and room for advancement do we have with semiconductors and their capabilities?
I'm not the right person to ask about it
Okay.
because, as I said, I'm involved with the software for the semiconductors.
Okay.
So I have one semiconductor. Wait. So I get one semiconductor. This would be an example of it.
Oh yeah, nice.
Cannot see it really well. Wait. Get that better for you. So yeah, that's one, actually not one that I need for work, but it is from work. Yeah, I hope you
Okay.
can see it kind of. Let me get some light. So, right.
So we're looking at different semiconductors.
I'm not really picking up the focus, I think. Let's just get the camera closer. Yeah. So that's still not focusing.
What have you learned most creating software for semiconductors?
So what I created the software for mostly was this thing, this little guy here. This thing, which is a radar chip. Unfortunately,
Okay.
you cannot really see it because it doesn't focus. I think the camera is just not meant to be used that closely.
Yeah, I think so too.
Sorry for that.
All good.
But yeah. What I learned the most, I guess what I already learned in my bachelor thesis, but that was a different kind of data, is that a lot of the part when you're working in R&D is actually data engineering, which means you want to have you have to get data, you want to get that data, you want to have the data clean, you want to have the data in the right format, you want to have the data synchronized so that you can actually work with the data. And to do all of that takes a lot of time. And that's what I was doing a lot. So you have this radar chip here, and it's 3 transmitting antennas and 1 receiving antenna, which is transmitting electromagnetic waves, and then you receive it. And that's what you do with radar. And that's what I used to record data, but I also had a stereo camera, so 2 cameras next to each other, and then also a time of flight sensor, which is projecting little dots on the outside, basically like an iPhone for the Face ID.
Okay.
And then because the iPhone actually has a dot projector to project, I think, infrared dots on your face, and then it measures how long the light needs to get back to the iPhone. So then it actually has a 3D map of your face, not just a 2D image.
Okay.
That's also what we used with the time of flight sensor. And then we also used a polar chest belt to get an ECG, so the heartbeat, and also acceleration to get the breathing. And yeah, you have to have all those data synchronized. And that's challenging. And it also becomes a lot of data. I think in the end it was 3 terabytes. And you have to manage the data, and it's a lot of files. I don't know.
3 terabytes. That's a lot.
Thousands of files, I guess. And yeah, depending on what you look at, you have a lot of different data points. Like, because each recording was 10 minutes, and then you have like millions of frames that you have to work with. And then you also want to get insights from that, and you have to then write scripts to get the right insights from the data. For example, in our case, the heart rate that you want to extract from the ECG, And then you have to apply that to all those like hundreds of recordings, and to get all that right and to have it synchronized, like I think on the millisecond level, is also different because they also have different frame rates. Like sometimes 100 frames per second, 130 frames per second, 1,000 frames per second. You want to have that all in line to work with it. So a lot of, as one Stanford professor once put it, the dirty work. You have to learn the dirty work, and that's important for to produce good PhD students. It's an interesting guy. His name is Andrew Ang. Also built a few companies. If you want to look into him.
What's his first name?
Andrew Ang. So last name is just NG. He's quite famous in the AI community because he also made different courses that have been watched by millions, like a lot of times free courses. By the way, if you're already at semiconductors, no, I'm not getting this out here. For a second. Now it's not good for focus, but there's already a few different projects, new projects that I want to start. Because I really got interested in this finance stuff.
How do you organize your digital files? Like your own personal files?
I'm switching more and more to cloud.
Yeah.
So I try to not have too much stuff on my laptop. I also don't want to have a lot of stuff on my phone. By the way, basically, I don't want to use my phone at all, as much as I can. That's also why I downgraded to this one.
No way. So you use that now?
Most of the day, yeah.
For what? Like how? So you just showed me a like a it looks like an old Nokia phone.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like
it is Nokia.
Is it okay? Does it have data on there or no?
No,
For
it's
like
called. It has Snake on it.
it's got what?
Snake. Don't you know the game Snake?
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh, you missed something. So it was the classic game here. We have like a snake that you can wait. That you can you have to catch the food with the snake, and then it gets longer when you catch it.
Oh, okay.
Was a 2000 I think, when and 90s thing, I think, when those phones were popular.
Okay, so why did you switch to that?
Because I was just getting, I mean, I still have this phone.
Okay.
That you can
So
see
how
yourself,
do you use them? So you're showing me a what kind of phone is that?
Samsung Galaxy Note 10.
Okay, so you have a Samsung Galaxy Note 10 and a Nokia small phone. How do you use them in your
And a
everyday
Samsung
life?
S8 as well.
And a Samsung S8. Okay. How do you use each one?
I use this one. I always have with me. And that I use for calls, so that I'm available, reachable. And this one, I most of the time actually turn it off. So that's also how it started. When I was studying in my last exam season, I was too much on my phone. I was getting too distracted.
Okay.
So I thought I would just switch it off, because if you first I laid it somewhere away from me, but that didn't work. So at some point I just said I would turn it off, and then if I want to turn it on again, then I basically had to tell myself I failed in not looking at it, and that was enough friction that I didn't turn it on most of the time, because most of the time, if you want to check your phone and you're getting distracted, it's nothing really important or so. So I think, okay, I don't want to turn on my phone just for this, right? I don't want to fail for this small thing, like checking Instagram or so. And yeah, that's why that's how it started. And then I thought, okay, but I want to be able that someone could call me, so I picked up this phone.
Do you text on that phone too?
Actually, cannot really. you cannot receive text messages. I don't know if they changed the standard. If I send text messages, the other person will get it, but you cannot actually receive it. I think there's now a different protocol that this thing cannot handle, because that's an old original phone that's like 15 years old or 20 years old,
Yeah.
this phone. So I just think it cannot handle it. I recently thought about getting a new phone, which is similar to this, which you can also buy now. And maybe
a
that
dumb
would work
phone.
then. Yeah. So I turn this on off most of the time now, when I'm at home, when I'm at work, when I'm at university. I can still check WhatsApp and mails on my laptop. So I'm using my laptop every day, pretty much.
Okay.
So I can still check everything that I can check on my phone on my laptop. But it's just that I wouldn't turn on my laptop or put it out if I just want to check my phone quickly for WhatsApp. And that is already like, or other things, like also checking the stock market, for example, what I used to do a lot. I wouldn't put out my laptop to do it. So I do it less frequent. And if I'm already on my laptop, I also don't do it that much, because I think I'm already on my laptop. I can also do something productive.
Yeah.
So when I'm, and on the other hand, when I have my phone, you can always reach it. You can always check something. And if you're on it, most of the time you cannot do anything real productive, because it's just not fitting to it that much compared to the laptop for doing actual work.
Yeah.
So it's working pretty well. And I use it a lot of the times, especially when I'm just at home, when I'm actually travel, or when I'm like going somewhere, I turn it on. For example, when I'm listening to music in the car. When I'm listening to music on my headphones, I just use my watch, because I have music on there too, and podcast and all that stuff. But that's what I use it. And sometimes to be reachable with WhatsApp when there's something important that I know that I should handle, and I don't want to turn on my laptop. And if I don't have Wi-Fi with my laptop, I need to turn on my phone to either use my phone or have a hotspot with my phone. And this phone I mainly use for the lights. This is always at home to just handle the lights, the LED lights, or Netflix. So that doesn't even have a SIM card in it. Just like it's basically used like an iPad, like a home tablet, but smaller.
You got quite a system going on.
Yeah, and I experiment with it a lot to make everything more productive.
Huh.
But by the way,
you said you use the cloud more?
Yeah. So I don't want to have
what cloud service?
I just Google Drive, just the basic 15 gigabytes for free. I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a huge fan of reoccurring payments. So the only subscription that I pay for is Spotify, because I actually use it like every day.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's fair, but I don't I haven't subscribed to anything else. Okay, I have public transport, but yeah, no online service. And the 15 gigabytes for me is fine. I mean, I still have some files on my laptop, but I maybe switch away from it. And then I have a 2 terabyte external hard drive, external SSD at home, which I use for as an archive. So there's like there's more than a terabyte. I think more than 500,000 files on it. So it's like all of the stuff that I have, basically. And I try to keep my laptop as slim as possible, so there's not a lot of stuff on there, because I don't use a lot of stuff most of the time anyway. So
yeah.
By the way, actually, I also got an old digital camera that I used instead of the phone for taking pictures. It was also interesting. I had it at my birthday party, and the pictures, I think, especially with the flash, they turn out nicer if you just use a camera from a phone.
Is it a digital camera or like a film camera?
Yeah, digital. I also have a film camera from the 60s. I think it's Japanese, that I also want to start to use at some point. But I don't have the expertise nor the time nor to pay the expertise. So that's for another time.
Yeah, you've got a lot of things going on.
The next project is this thing that I want to play with. Actually talked to a guy at university today, and he built some stuff with it. I want to build some finance stuff with it, maybe even automated trading, or like a dashboard for finance stuff, which you can do with these things. I don't know. Have you ever heard about Raspberry Pi?
Raspberry Pi?
Yes, that's what that is.
What
I
is
think
that?
there's even a Raspberry on it. Yeah.
Okay, I think I see it. Yeah.
It's
And
it's
you,
a it's a mini computer. So you have your ports here. Here is for power and for displays, and I think that's the CPU. That's the Wi-Fi chip. I think that's the RAM. That's the RAM. That's Bluetooth. And yeah, you can put Linux on it, and then you can build stuff with it. And here you have the pins where you can put like hardware on it. So the guy that I talked to, he built like a mini car, like one of these RC cars,
okay.
but he built it from scratch with autonomous driving. So he put cameras. You can connect cameras to that thing, and then you can put like AI models on there, and then you can like add motors with these pins, and then you can have like a mini car that drives autonomously. That's what he did with this thing. You can do a lot of stuff with it. People do crazy stuff with it.
Sounds great.
You can just Google, go to YouTube and look like Raspberry Pi projects, and it's insane what people build with it. Yeah,
Well, we're
that's new.
closing out our conversation here recently. Coming up. The last question I have for you to end on, what's something you're curious about recently?
So we already talked a lot about it, which is
Yeah,
finance,
that's true.
quantitative finance. Okay, maybe do you want another answer?
Another answer.
Okay. Yeah, we also talked about the AI in medicine. We haven't talked about the two other projects, but yeah, that's also one thing. Then startups, because I'm now starting to see more about startups and people actually building up their startups, which is interesting. Recently. I mean, I'm curious about it, but I haven't done anything about it. I've been curious about it for a while, which is like martial arts, but
Okay.
I've never really gotten around to train actually, because now, due to my injury and also because I was sick quite a few times, I wasn't really able to do a lot of sports in the last like 5 years. And now that my injury is healed, I really want to do more sports, and I also want to do like climbing, bouldering with friends, which I also did a few times now. But also, I really want to look at martial arts at some point, and especially martial arts, not martial combat, martial arts, because I like that there's some kind of, especially for things like kung fu or so, spiritual and meditation component to it as well, and
Yeah.
not just like hurting the other person,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, which I think like boxing is, there's nothing spiritual about it. Boxing, I guess some people would disagree, but I would say that's the difference without knowing much about either.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that's kind of the difference between martial arts and martial combat. And I would rather want to have that spiritual connection with it, and also like the meditational component. By the way, that was very interesting at the trading company in London. They had meditation rooms on every floor, more or less.
Really?
Yeah. So you have this traders with which having like doing a lot of stuff, but it was also really interesting because it was not like how you would think about it, not like corporate and everybody with a suit and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Some of those traders, if you would see them on the street, you could think they're dealing drugs. How like coming in the office with like a jogging trousers and then
Yeah.
a hoodie and like a big black jacket. And then they had a gym downstairs, and then I think 3 meditation rooms on the first, second, third floor. It was very
Huh.
interesting, and they were very nerdy, all of them. So I think pretty much none of them has a finance background. They were all like mathematicians and computer scientists, engineers, physicists. One of them, the one that gave the machine learning talk, I talked to him afterwards, and I asked, "Hey, is that a Feynman diagram on your biceps? And he said, yeah. He had a Feynman diagram about antimatter and antimatter tattooed on his biceps.
Wow.
So those are the kind, because he also did physics. There were also some mathematics PhDs, so very nerdy. And they also play a lot of games and have like poker tournaments and all this stuff, which is also about probabilities. So yeah, also that's the meditation room. It was very interesting. And
That is interesting.
yeah,
You do
yeah,
any
that's one.
meditation?
I tried it a few times, but probably should get more like calmness into my life. Probably would be a good idea. At the moment, not. But I also thought about doing maybe like a month, 3 months retreat or something where you like focus on it completely. Guess that would
Oh,
be
wow.
better. But I first have to finish studies and then maybe, I have the feeling that if I finish studies and have one job, actually working in one job will be way less busy than what I'm doing right now.
Oh, totally.
So, so I'm looking forward to have like a not as busy life when I'm actually working,
Yeah.
because because I'm already working right now, and then I have the university stuff, then one of the projects, and then also another project at the student initiative, and then 2 other task force at the student initiative, also applying right now, and then learning the language. So a lot of stuff going on. But, and then trying to build this thing. As I said,
Yeah.
automated trading, that will be next thing.
Yeah, a lot going on.
Also, by the way, coming to you, I also thought about writing a book at some point, but
What'd you say?
writing a book, I also thought about it. Now I actually start to have some ideas, but
The
yeah.
difference with writing a book is you have to take what you think and write it. That's where the writing part comes in. You got to physically do it.
Yeah. But I recently found this again, which I think very nice. It's from my father. It's like this leather book.
Ooh, that's
And
nice.
I started putting on, that's what I did with my fellow students right now. It's a course on machine learning.
Okay.
Course on machine learning about what was that? Rich regression. So one type of thing. I think it's really nice, and I actually want to, because I think a lot of the thing, and I guess you know a lot more about it. What I've heard from writing is that writing is mostly editing. So like writing a book is a lot of editing. I guess there are different styles, but for some authors, I guess it is. I mean,
Yeah, it
that's
depends what you're writing, probably. I was doing
okay.
editing today, so maybe there's definitely part of it. Sure.
But for me, it really helps to just get something down, like when
Yeah.
writing something scientific or so, and then editing it. Because if I think too hard that what I want to write, I don't write anything.
Yeah, you can't write it perfect right away. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was, and I have like a little perfectionist in me that I learned to tame with time, to like get anything done at first. And I now got this one because I also have like notebooks where you have like one page after the one page, and if I have this, I know if I start writing on it, I know that I write so many things that are not nice. So I never actually started to write on those because I want to have nice things in those
Yeah.
notebooks.
Yeah.
So this one, I just put like different pieces of papers in it, and if I don't like anything, I just can take it out, and then it's still nice. Then the book's still nice, and then that gives me more freedom to like play around and write some stuff and
Yeah.
actually use the page to order my thoughts, and that's how I think about it when I do
There you
this.
go.
I think writing is probably, and I guess you can tell me about me. Maybe no, that's the point where I ask you the questions. But yeah, we're already at the end of the time. Where I guess it really helps you to order your thoughts, because
That's the biggest thing.
because
Yeah.
when I'm lying in bed or when I'm in the shower, for example, those are 2 cases where I think a lot, and sometimes it takes me an hour to fall asleep because I always get up and write some things down to not forget it and make reminders for the next day and all that stuff. And really getting into the practice of ordering your thoughts by bringing them on the page and making it actually physical. I think it's very, very useful for
You know
everything.
what? You might appreciate this. So this year I've been so we'll end on this. So this last year, calendar year, I designed an external brain for myself
Ooh,
through Google spreadsheets. So
ooh, okay. You
so the
automated.
point of this is to be as present as possible in the day, like throughout the entire day, to be as present as possible.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, I'm in my head so much, there's so much going on that like I'm not here in a way. So what I've been doing this whole year is every week I have um I break things down from like weekly action items to daily action items to then weekly reviews. So everything that's on my mind or things I need to do, it gets organized and outsourced to this Excel spreadsheet. And I'll look at it pretty much every single morning. Um, and then a week goes by on Monday. And then on Monday, I do a weekly review. And it's like my favorite time of the week. So where I go through it and I do all these calculations, and it's set up kind of like a box score of a sports game, like a basketball game, and I do the percentages of like how many of these action items or like to do
Mm,
items I did, and then we see like the metrics, and then there's an objective: did we win or lose the week? And with that, um, I decide at the beginning of the week, what are we going to focus on? And there's usually kind of a max. It should be less than 7, but it tends to be around 4.
that's
So there's 4 items that I focus on. Like if we hit 70% of these, we win the week. So then there's weekly action items, and those are like free throws. It's just stuff to get um, consistent at. For me, it's like
mm,
something is it's bigger than a daily action item, but it's something along the lines of like an email newsletter that I put out every week. It's like making sure we're doing these like professional things every week, putting out the podcast every week, hitting those metrics. And then the daily action items are just like things that just need to get done in life. And so I calculate all of them, and then I do like a weekly review and kind of have when I do the review, it's kind of like a press conference in a way. And I like interview myself, and I have set questions of like, what came up that we didn't expect? How did we handle it? You know, what were you proud of this week professionally? What are you proud of um, personally? What's one small thing? You know, so all these different questions. And for me, it's been like one of the most fun things that I've done, and it's helped me be present. Like I can be relieved or relieved because I know everything's handled over here in this like document. I don't have to worry because I'll just get to it in the morning and I'll like see what we got to do, and then every week. So it's been interesting. Yeah.
I have a few of those tactics as well. Might a few of them might be interesting to you to also try out. So what I did for a long time was have using Microsoft To Do to handle
Okay.
all of my to-dos and have different lists and sometimes sub lists. And then I can check every day, okay, I want to do something for that. What is on the list? Or also have daily to-dos and they get added to my daily
Yeah.
to-dos automatically. But it just gotten too much. So I just, in the last weeks, I just throw away so much of it. And I now have this one Google document where I put all of the interesting stuff that I want to deal with, but it's not important right now. I'm already at 20 pages
Yeah.
on that document. But the other thing is that I have now Notion for my university planning, most of
Okay.
it, and there I have the university to-dos ordered by the subject or the course. and color coded by the importance and the urgency. And then I also have Google Sheets, where I have a list of the different lectures and how far I've been in the lectures, because I watch the lectures online, I watch the recordings, I don't go to the lectures. And then also the different sheets for the different courses. And then I can color code, okay, I finished this lecture, I started this lecture, I'm at that minute, or for the exercise, I've done that a few times and it's working. So that I don't have to worry when I'm looking at a subject, where am I, what can I do? I just check it and then okay, I have to continue there. And then maybe the most important part, and the thing that I'm missing right now that you just said, is actually reviewing it, of how much you've achieved. Because that's the part that's missing for me right now, is that I use Toggle, which is an app, but also browser extension. And there you can track your task, what you're actually doing, and you can time it. And then you can order it to certain things. I only use it for university. For example, I can now check, okay, today I did something for university for 5 hours and 30 minutes. And that's also the week total, because it's Monday. And I was at a study group for 3.5 hours, and I wrote Anki flashcards for 1.5 hours and for another subject. And I was at one exercise for another subject. And then you can also get a weekly overview, where you can see I did so much stuff for this project, and then you get a pie chart of how much you did for each project, and then even smaller in which task you did a lot of. And the idea is, as I said, I don't do the review yet, that you look at your weekly report, or my idea would be that on Friday I see, okay, I've done a lot for this course, a lot for this course, a lot for this course, but I haven't done a lot for this one. So today I should focus on that one. So that you can actually see what you do. And also what it helped for me is, because as I've told you before about the data cleaning, I want this data to be accurately representing what I actually done. So when I start the clock, I'm actually working, because now I'm on the clock. Now I'm on the clock, now it counts as I'm working. And if I'm not working then, and if I review it later, I don't know if I actually worked that long. So it helped me a lot I kind of hacked myself, my discipline, in the way that I want to have clean data of what I did.
I feel that.
Because if I start the clock, I actually want to work. And then if you get 20 hours of work in any university week, that could also already be very productive, because it's like very focused work. Like reading emails or doing organizational stuff doesn't really count most of the time. So actually doing like a lot of stuff. I try to get to like 30 or more, which is already pretty tough, because I'm working also 10 hours, and then with the other project takes like 10 hours. So 30 is like already really good. And if I could get to like 35 or 40, then with the other things, I'm probably already at a 50-hour week, or maybe even more, 50, 60. My goal at the moment is
whatever works for the individual.
The Sunday afternoon free. That's my goal for at the moment. And then I have some calmness in my life.
Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I'm glad we caught up. This has been fun.
Yeah, me too.
Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me again.